Imagine this. You've just finished your work week and it's a crisp autumn night. You work hard and you look forward to your evenings off with your family. However, this isn't any normal evening. You have been especially excited for this particular evening for weeks now. As you head home, you pat the bag swaying at your hip as you stride. You smile, thinking about all of the nice things you plan on enjoying. Your bag contains a bonus from your employer, a reward for a year's job well done, and thinking about it makes you beam with pride. You see the lights in the distance, candles in the windows of your neighbors, and turnips sitting on the ground by their doorsteps don carved faces in hopes of warding off anyone with harmful intent. As you get closer to your home, you see your family outside, already beginning to make their way up the hill. You pick up the pace to catch up with them. Your mother sees you and smiles warmly. She hands you some items, some produce from this year's harvest of your crops, and some animal meat. Then, side by side, you both make your way up the hill. There is an enormous fire blazing, and the smoke rises up far into the night sky. Anyone could see the fire from at least a mile away, and you feel a sense of awe, a little suspense, and even some fear as you come nearer to the flames. Once up on the hill, you see the druid, the local healer and shaman, chanting and waving their arms towards the stars while circling the huge bonfire. You wait your turn. So many others are here to say a little prayer of thanks and ask for their next year's wishes to be granted. Now you're up. You are close enough to the fire to complete your task. You look into the flames and think back to the last year that has passed. Sure, you weren't always kind. Maybe sometimes you got frustrated and cursed at someone. However, for the most part, you did your best. You also think about how blessed you've been. Your family made it through the last winter. Spring came without a hitch. You ate good food, danced, sang, and enjoyed many moments with your friends and family. And this thought, you whisper a few words in thanks and gratitude. This prompts you to step back a little and gaze all the way up to the top of the flames, wondering if you'll catch a glimpse of the great Mother Goddess. Your heart knows she hears you either way. You get back to your task. Pulling the feeling of gratitude back into your heart, you cast the items you carried up the hill into the fire. Now it's time to make your requests. You ask for health, of course, for the next winter to pass with minimum deaths, for the children in your life to be strong and happy. And you throw in a little request for some pleasures of your own as well. Once you're done, you kiss your mother on the cheek as she is lighting a candle with the sacred flames to take back home. And then you walk away in the direction of the music. And you know there will be good food and drink already there waiting. Hello, 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 and welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first time joining us, then welcome. Today I have a special spooky season episode of the Bonfire Chats for you. I'm going to be going over the history of Halloween and Samhain and Dia de los Muertos for you. So light your candle and some incense. If you want to, get cozy, make yourself some tea, and let's get tapped in. take a quick moment and introduce myself to those who may not know who I am. I am Maestra Wyzdom, your friendly neighborhood shamanic healer, instructor, and mentor. My shamanic name is Heals the Mother, and I'm also a Shamanic Reiki Master teacher and the founder of the Wyzdom DVine Mystery School, which is a safe space for healing, growth, and resources for the gifted helpers out there. If you're interested in taking classes with me or booking one-on-ones, the link is in the bio. Now let's begin. My students know that as a multicultural woman, and because I'm certified in and I teach cross-cultural shamanism, I love to talk about many cultural practices. And I especially love to highlight how the exchange between cultures, both from antiquity and modern times, creates a blended experience that many practice today, but have no idea of their roots. Halloween is one such practice, especially here in the Western world. In the US, many people have migrated here in different ways for different reasons, and they have brought their spirituality, their holidays, and their customs with them. And one of those things happens naturally is that people often have celebrations and sacred days that fall at the same time, or they have similar meanings as ones celebrated in other parts of the world. This has always been so fascinating to me, and it made it easier for the church to transition the people over to their religion. They noticed that certain days were already holy and sacred to the people, and so they added days to their calendars that mimicked these particular holy days. What you heard at the beginning of this video was a very simplified description of what it would look like if you were alive during the time where Samhain was at its height. Samhain, spelled Samhain, is a Gaelic word, and it is pronounced Samhain or Samhain. And it's a pagan religious festival originating from an ancient Celtic spiritual tradition. It is usually celebrated mostly in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France. And from October 31st to November 1st, it was used to celebrate and welcome the harvest and usher in the dark half of the year. There are some key elements to Samhain that you may recognize. They believed that the veil was very thin during this time, and that meant that all forms of non-humans could roam the earth. Because of this, offerings or treats were left out to feed the ancestors and appease the spirits and make sure that none of them caused any harm. The Fae were known to cause chaos or perform tricks, and would sometimes kidnap a person or two and take them back to their world with them. So, in order to fool them, the villagers would wear their clothes backwards or create some other form of disguise or costume in an attempt to confuse them into thinking they were not human. The hearth fire would be lit at home as a form of blessing the home, as a way of blessing the home. People would be seen walking back from the huge sacred bonfire with a candle to use to light the fire at home. The idea of candles would stay when this holiday transformed to Halloween. However, they would be now placed in a jack-o'-lantern, which today is made by carving a pumpkin, when in the past they would have been made by carving a turnip. And by the way, the sacred bonfire would sit on a giant wheel that was used to represent the sun. The great goddess or great mother was celebrated. She was seen as the feminine divine aspect of creation. She is the reason all seasons exist in the physical, and as all women do, she has many sides to her. However, eventually the church would divide her aspects and create the image of the Virgin, or virtuous woman out of the summer and spring aspects or the lighter aspects of her. And then they would create the witch or the hedonistic woman out of her fall and winter or darker aspects. The Romans had their own fall holidays before Christianity as well. The first were Feralia, a day in late October when the Romans traditionally commemorated the passing of the dead. The second was a day to honor Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. The symbol of Pomona is the apple, and the incorporation of this celebration into Samhain probably explains the tradition of bobbing for apples that is practiced today on Halloween. In the year 1000, the church made November 2nd All Souls Day, a day to honor the dead, and in the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor all saints. This created All Hallows Eve, Hallow meaning holy, or Halloween, which is now celebrated on October 31st. Now we head on over to what is currently central Mexico, where the local indigenous people, mainly the Mexica, or peoples who would later be deemed as Aztecs, had very rich and diverse traditions of honoring the dead. They believed that when our loved ones transition, they are not gone, and one ancient belief was that they had a long journey ahead of them, and it was the duty of the living to make sure that they had whatever they would need to have a successful journey on their trip. If you are at all familiar with the Egyptian Book of the Dead, this may sound familiar to you. And here's the thing. Many of these spiritual traditions we hear about were actually influenced by African spirituality. If you were to ask many curanderas and curanderos, they would tell you it is common knowledge that their ancient indigenous medicine was influenced by the Africans they encountered for many reasons. Now, the local people already had deep connections with their ancestors and ways of honoring them, including leaving food out for the journey and the use of marigolds or cempasúchil flowers that harnessed the power of the sun and were believed to have the ability to light the way for those traveling in the spirit realm. If you like the animation film Coco, you may remember this. So when the Spaniards came to colonize the people, they came with some of those practices we spoke about earlier that made it to the church. They recognized All Saints' Day on November 1st and All Souls' Day on the 2nd. Spain also had their own encounters with North Africa throughout history. So they also learned about the African way of connection and honoring ancestors and deceased loved ones. This is an extremely oversimplified version of this rich history, but the Spaniards mixed their own diverse practices, rich with multicultural influences, with those of the indigenous people who lived in this region of Mexico, and then this became the foundation of Dia de los Muertos. The skulls and skeletons you usually see associated with the day, well, that begins with a goddess, Mixteca Cihuatel, the queen of the Aztec underworld of Chincuna Mictlan, was the central figure for anyone who passed on in the Aztec culture. Her role was to watch over the bones of the dead and preside over the ancient festivals of the dead. In Aztec rituals, real skulls were placed on altars for the dead. Spaniards later replaced these with sugar, paste, and clay skulls. La Calavera Catrina. This is a fancy woman skeleton. Think about the Book of Life animation film, where she's wearing the big fancy hat and then the long dress. She was created around 1910 by a political cartoonist as a reference to the high society obsession with European customs. Her name, Katrina, comes from the slang word Katrin, which referred to a well-dressed man or woman. In present day, La Catrina is linked to the celebration of El Dia de los Muertos almost seamlessly. Throughout the decorated sugar skulls, face paint, and elegant dress worn by festival goers. She gives a modern nod to the ancient Aztec queen of the underworld, Mixteca. As you may have figured out, many of these customs were blended with the more acceptable customs brought on to the masses by the church. As the church grew, those who wanted to honor their previous customs became more in need of ways to hide in plain sight. And as you can see, you can hide, but you could not and did not kill off the spirit of many of these traditions as we still practice them unknowingly today. In honor of the holidays going on right now and our ancient practices and customs that came and were hidden by our ancestors, let's just take a moment now and in your hearts and in your minds, just give a little gratitude. Let's give a little gratitude for the year that has passed, for all of the things that you have harvested over this year, for the good, the bad, the ugly, for either they were a blessing or a lesson. Let's give thanks to our ancestors and our divine spirit teams that helped us along the way and continue to help us. Give a little moment of gratitude and honor to them. And now, just take a moment of silence and reflect on anything that you would like to bring into your life for the next year to come, as November 1st used to be the beginning of the new year. With that, we just want to go ahead and close out now. With gratitude and confidence, we thank you, we honor you. Amen, Ashe, Aho. If you have the ability, create a little altar or put out a little offering or make an ofrenda with your family and honor your past loved ones during this time. If you enjoyed today's bonfire chat, then go ahead and tap the like button for me. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you would like to come back and hang out with me again, be sure to subscribe and click the ringy bell so that you'll know whenever it's time to tap in on my next video. I hope you all have a blessed and safe holy day and weekend. Maestra Wyzdom out.